Um, I know I mentioned it last week. We do have the new Sounders branding on our graphics, so that's good to see. The club officially on December 12th said farewell to Nico Ladero as free agency opened up. We've talked about Nico and his departure here for a few weeks now, but we'll continue to do so here. Oh boy. And speaking of the Sounders, they made a trade. Goodness gracious. I told you this things happen when we're recording. Anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Ladero, 231 appearances, which is the fourth most in club history, 58 goals, fifth most in club history, 95 assists, tops the Sounders all-time record, 7 trophies in a Sounders kit, 4 Western Conference championships, 2 MLS Cup championships, and 1 CCL championship. Obviously, Nico, many thanks to your impact in the community, to your support of the other teams here in Seattle, and obviously being the most influential Sounder of all time. In other related news, we'll get to the thing that just happened in a minute. We've got other stuff to go over before that. But doesn't the new logo look nice? I think it does. Anyway, and we've got the updated colors. So there was a report on the 12th that Austin FC is reportedly interested in Javier Arriaga, reported by Nico Moreno first. That's interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about Javi and that after we get through these notes from the end of season press conference. The Sounders on December 13th held their end of season press conference down at Long Acres. We got to see Craig Weibel, Brian Schmetzer, and Stefan Fry talked a little bit after his extension. So a few notes to get from that. We'll have more writing regarding the end of season press conference in the coming days. But the club will play some preseason in Spain. They played some preseason overseas this past year in preparation for Morocco and the Club World Cup. Brian Schmescher did say that he did a better job this year of allowing his assistants to have a bigger role, but did say that he might oversee more things on the offensive end this upcoming year, notably, obviously, for all the draws that Seattle had this season. Both Raul Ruidiaz and the club mutually agreed that this upcoming season needs to be better for the Peruvian. Craig Weibel said that there was the understanding that it wasn't what either of them wanted it to be, and they're looking for improvement this upcoming year. Weibel said that the club will be adding at least 1 or 2 significant players to the roster, which is obviously big news. They are in conversations with 3 players for 1 position. It does sound like a central attacker. 2 from South America, one of them seemingly being confirmed as Pedro de la Vega, and another from Europe. The European player is reportedly from Scandinavia, but isn't currently playing there. So that's, if you want to do some deep dive, some research on that, you can speculate here. A couple of the Sounders players will be involved in the upcoming U.S. men's national team January camp. It is rumored that it'll be Jackson Reagan and Josh Atencio. Weibel didn't look at this as a rebuild, more as a reload, which makes sense. They're not dumping a ton of players or contracts like other teams. Just going to make sure this wasn't another trade. Oh, goodness. Yeah, again, so much happening. Depending on how construction goes and the timeliness of it at Long Acres, the Sounders could train early preseason at Starfire. New turf will be going in at Lumen once the Seahawks seasons end. As a result of this, the Sounders will open the 2024 campaign on the road. So there was wonder if maybe grass would go into Lumen after this turf cycle ended, in anticipation of the 2026 World Cup playing matches here in Seattle. That will not be the case. The Tacoma Defiance will continue playing at Starfire for the time being. Teams, this is where we get to Javi. Teams have reached out regarding Javier Arriaga, but are under the wrong pretense. Weibel said that he praised Arriaga and said that his presence as a depth center back, he could be a center back that starts anywhere in MLS. He said that was really important to pushing Jackson Reagan and Neymar throughout the course of the season, and that they value him and they value having him on this club. And the clubs are calling on the pretense that Seattle wants to move him. He went against that, saying that was not the case. I thought this was a little bit surprising. It was actually funny. The morning of the end of season press conference, Javier Arriaga was asked by some supporters about the Sounders picking up his option and didn't really necessarily sound like he was too thrilled about it. So it'll be interesting to see if Javi is on the roster to begin the season. But yeah, for now, it doesn't sound like Seattle is in any hurry to move the Ecuadorian center back. So, keeping up with it, the next day, on the 14th, the club selected defender Jonathan Bell in stage 1 of the 2023 re-entry draft. The 26-year-old defender spent last season with St. Louis, following 2 years with New England. Keeping it up, well, no, we'll go in order. Also, on the same day, the club announced an extension. It was an extension with defender Alex Roldan to a new contract through 2026. The club announced it was a 3-year deal through the 2026 season with a team option in 27. Obviously, if you don't know Alex, we can get to it. Originally drafted by Seattle with the 22nd pick of the 2018 Super Draft out of Seattle University. Christian's brother has made 162 appearances across all competitions over the course of 6 seasons, including 35 in 2023. Following his collegiate career with the Redhawks, Roldan quickly became a featured player for the Sounders, appearing in 19 regular season games, 7 starts as a rookie back in 2018. After making a switch from midfield to right back following the 19 season, he eventually won the job and started every postseason match during the club's run to the MLS final in 2020. He's been a mainstay in the lineup ever since, starting at least 26 matches from every season from 21 to 23. 2022 was big for Alex, establishing career high with appearances, starts, and 7 assists in regular season play. Earning a start in the 2021 All-Star game alongside 5 of his teammates, which include his brother. So there was that. Nice to see the back line sort of stay together. Weibel did talk about the defenders at the end of the season press conference and did say that they don't really plan on doing anything drastic there, considering how well the defense played for Seattle. And I think it makes sense. I know there were some complaints about Alex throughout the course of the season, but I mean, when you allow the fewest goals in MLS and you record the most clean sheets, it doesn't really sound like there's reason to do much differently, whether it's the back line or the goalkeeper. So, last piece of news before we get to this trade that just took place on the 15th. It was announced that young midfielder Ethan Dobbelaere was selected by DC United in the end of year's waiver list. Ethan, I mean, it's been not the easiest for Sounders young players to integrate themselves into the lineup, and Dobbelaere was one of the players that was affected by that. But I mean, of the players I'm thinking of, Reed Baker Whiting, Cody Baker, Josh Atencio, Dobbelaere is the one who just didn't make enough of an impact, I guess I'd say. So I don't necessarily think this is the biggest surprise when it comes to that. Obviously, wishing him the best of luck, though, moving forward. So the trade that the Sounders just made, as we were literally getting into their segment, was that the club has acquired $325,000 in general allocation money for the 2024 season from Columbus Crew in exchange for 2 international slots next season. The move brings Seattle's number of roster slots in 2024 to 6 as the team continues its preparation for the upcoming season. Interesting that Seattle would trade away those roster slots and it would get that money. I don't know what that's preparing for, but usually when a club is acquiring general allocation money, there's a move that's lined up that immediately follows that. So we'll see that, making sure, again, that something's not happening. That is it when we get to Sounders related news and such. Again, with Weibel talking about adding impact players, and especially in the attacking role, it'll be interesting to see when we see, maybe it's Pedro de la Vega who's added, maybe it's one of the other players from South America that he hinted at, or the Scandinavian player. And that was just at one position. You know, there were some people who reported that it was only one. As someone who was there, he said that was only at one position. So it'll be very intriguing to see what Seattle is able to add this offseason as they look to reload and not rebuild.